Ladies and gentlemen, members and friends, it's your hosts, Andrew Durbidge, Matt Bailey, tuning in with you live from from Whiskey HQ, if you like, in our both respective senses. Good evening, Andrew.
Good evening, Matt. You're looking fine. Sorry, I just realised I was still on mute there, so I had to do a quick click. But yeah, no, fantastic to see you, and thank you for everyone for joining us as always.
I think this is our 11th virtual for the year. I've lost track of how many virtuals we've actually done, but for this year, we've done 11 big ones, and this is the biggest one of the year in some ways because it's the biggest box and it's got lots of goodies inside. And I'm really excited by this Christmas Casks virtual tasting, as we called
it. It was a healthy box, actually. I picked it up and thought, oh, there's either a lot of whiskey in here or there's some other goodies as well. And it turned out I was right on both fronts.
Big shout out to everyone who's throwing in on the comment section at the moment. Dave Cook says production value of SMWS virtuals is epic. Yes, compared to the others I have tonight. Oh, that's good to know. I mean, we always like doing a good virtual, and we've kept doing them even post. The virtuals really kicked off properly during COVID. We're doing them before then as well, but they really ramped up during COVID, and I think we've kept them pretty ramped this year as well, which has been great. For those who are playing along at home, you should have your Christmas Casks virtual tasting box. It looks as such. And it has 6 whiskeys instead of 5 this time around. It has a bag of snacks, and it has a can of good beer. We've worked closely with our friends over at Hop Nation into creating a lovely, hoppy 7.1% bruiser of a beer. So you can have some snacks, you can have a cold ale, and you can have a few drams as we go tonight. I don't encourage you to have all 6 drams and a full-strength beer all at once. So you can play along at your own discretion and sip mildly, as I'm going to do. I've already poured my beer out into a nice glass to enjoy.
I like when you describe the beer, you did actually include the adjective good. You put, your pack includes a good beer. It was, I'm cracking now, actually. So there we go.
Not a crap beer.
Oh, man. God, you can smell the hops coming out the moment you crack it.
Yeah. We had a great collaboration with Hop Nation. It was a triple collaboration between us, Hop Nation, and Whiskey and Albert. For those who remember, we released that Carbonado can about a year ago, which was fantastic, and we've kept a good relationship with Hop Nation ever since. And they very graciously helped us out with this J juice, as it's now known, which it wasn't. It was known as Jedi juice when it first came out, but of course they got in a bit of trouble for that, and they had to change the likeness of Princess Leia on the label. But it's a cracking top. It's a nice hoppy Nipah. Nipahs are all the rage in the beer world at the moment. I was talking to a brewer on the weekend who was saying he just doesn't know when the Nipah craze is going to slow up. They're all waiting for it to. It's a bit like us in talking about gin, isn't it? When's the gin phase going to stop? When does gin slow down? But Nipahs in beer are never ending, it seems.
It's particularly hoppy, that one. Knowing your fondness for hoppier ales, I can see why that would appeal to you.
Yeah, I did pick it. Yeah. So evening, everyone. Saving the beer for the weekend, says Dave. Evening, Matt and AD from Carla and Dazza. Good to see you, Carla and Dazza. I've never heard you referred to as Dazza. Yeah. Darren Howie, you are now Dazza forever. Yeah, fantastic. And Dov Burns.
Anyone old enough to remember the comedy company on Channel 10 in the late 80s, early 90s? There were 2 characters called Shazza and Dazza.
Yeah. For those who remember, throw it in the comments, please. Saving the beer for my son for Christmas. He's at Weeper. Weeper versus Nipah? He's at Weeper? Is that a place?
That's one of the mines, isn't it? The mining area.
Oh, right. There you go. Big shout out to all the members who've tuned in tonight, who have bought packs for tonight. There's even a couple of members from Northern Territory tuning in. There's a couple of members from all over who have packs for tonight. So I'm glad you're all joining in live. And you've shown, yes, some discipline. I'm not cracking open my cake yet. Look, Dov, we've got the cakes. It's just I can't bring myself to eat Christmas cake in November. I'm sorry. It's like seeing Christmas trees or Christmas decorations. It's like seeing Easter decorations in January. It's just wrong.
I'm saving mine for Christmas Day. It looks such a bloody good cake. I'm a bit worried it's actually going to be the highlight of the day. But anyway, it looks brilliant. So I'm saving mine.
Oh, Betty, North Queensland. How cool is that? That is awesome. We've got members all over the country who always like to tune into these.
Mr. Teague knows you got to put that comment up.
Yep.
Yeah, that's right. Kylie Mole, Con the Fruiterer.
I remember Con the Fruiterer.
I don't think Con the Fruiterer would get away with being on telly these days. I suspect.
No.
I suspect the cancel mob would come in pretty quickly. But anyway, yes.
So we have snacks. I'm trying not to make too much noise on camera with these, but we've got snacks, we've got beer, we've got drams. Why don't we kick straight into it? Dave Cook says, I'd eat hot cross buns year round. Who was I talking to the other day that said it's like, is it Aldi or Costco or one of those places that actually sells hot cross buns year round? Which is just like, because they just know that it's going to be popular.
Good to see. And Annalise has just popped up on the Facebook group here as well, so you won't see her name on your show there, on your display there, Matt. But good to see Annalise joining in as always.
Yep, awesome, fantastic, Annalise. Good to see you, and Stephen joining us, and everyone tuning in. Thank you so much. Shall we, Andrew?
Whiskey number one. Whiskey number one.
We've done this before. We know what we're doing by now.
Folks, reach for the top left-hand corner on your mat there. It's the nice blue circle, and we're talking juicy oak and vanilla, and this is cask 26.193.
Throw that caption up. Here we go. I promise you I'm organized. There it is. So I skipped forward a couple of points here. I just wanted to. There's the outturn cover on your screens next to us at the moment for November outturn, which is this is the virtual from that outturn. It's a bigger virtual. It's a bigger outturn. It was a big November outturn. Also, a huge shout out to Courtney Page. That's her. Courtney did all the illustration work for our outturn this month. She was our guest illustrator. She did all the cover designs, the people jumping into the glass of whiskey, the hand, everything like all the people jumping off the character jumping off the O on the outturn there. So huge shout out to Courtney and mad props to her and her work. She did amazing work with us for this month's outturn. This is the virtual tasting. There's a page from it. It says it's on tonight, so here it is. And as Andrew said, we're going to kick off the 26.193. I'm going to pop that up on the screen.
Boy, a tough gig when your first whiskey of the night is a 10-year-old from Distillery 26.
Yeah. Yeah, woe is me, like
Dave Cook, you've asked the question, what's the order tonight? If you've got your tasting mat in front of you, we're just starting in the top left and going round in actually it's the order in your booklet. If you got your booklet with you, we're just going to go straight down the order you see there.
Follow the menu. We're going 26 100 35 41 453 in that order. All right, well, shall we?
Shall we? I have.
We are.
And I'll tell you what,
yep.
I love it when a whiskey and a distillery just delivers straight away what you expect. Not that you would ever describe this distillery as being a stereotype or whatever, but you just knows this and you go, that's what I expect and that's what I want from a 26. And what a sweet spot it is.
Maybe it's the name influencing this a bit. And the tasting panel notes, but I do actually get I'd say this is arguably silkier than some 26s we've had recently. That's very true. But I've actually enjoyed some of those 26s that have had that little bit of edge to them that have made them interesting as well. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Just no disagreement here, but yeah.
I was a bit nervous how you're going to finish that sentence. Then I thought you were about to say, "Yes, I can identify with this. You've got a fruity booty." But
I was going to say you're looking particularly silky tonight, Andrew.
Oh well, yeah, I get that a lot. Yeah. I haven't tasted it yet. I'm still intrigued by the nose. Some beautiful vanilla notes. There's fruit tingles, a little bit of sherbet. Plenty to keep you amused there. All right, I'm diving in.
Oh, isn't that great? It just reminds you everything you love about that whiskey, about this.
Oh, look, I'm going to be lazy and use the Y word. Yum.
Yum. Well, I'm going to be.
You've sourced a new photo there.
Yeah. And in fact, I'll go one further. New inside as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
They were pouring the footings and the foundations for that side of the building when I was last there. So it's good to actually see it all finally up.
Yeah, it's very contemporary. And they've got a wax dripping weird looking bloke out the front as part of the Walker statue, which has caused lots of controversy.
Yes. Although he's now turning up at a few of the distilleries, isn't he? I think he's down at Glenkinchie as well.
Yeah, but Glenkinchie, he just looks sort of colourful and like wearing a multicolored jacket and with the dog. But like clearly she's dripping in wax, and I get what they're trying to do, but it just looks like he's been dipped in butter.
Well, for the Highlanders up there, that's probably quite appealing.
Yeah. This has not yet had a formal release, except for right now. We've popped an allocation of each of these casks online on the shop page.
Zach McHardy, so I'll get to try that again. Zach McHardy, welcome to you, sir. Good to see you. Welcome aboard.
Welcome, Zach. Good to see you, mate. Yeah, very modern looking building, says Dov. It's a very contemporary looking space for their rebuild. I mean, some things have remained unchanged. There you go. But I mean, the actual sort of visitor center and experiential side of the distillery has definitely had a bit of a facelift.
It's interesting. I don't know if you remember, but around 2014, 2015, when the Scotch whisky industry at the time got very bullish about what was going to happen. They thought the BRIC markets were going to open up, Brazil, Russia, India, and Diageo in particular announced a huge distillery expansion campaign for a lot of their workhorse distilleries. And this one in particular was earmarked to be doubled. Ditto goes for, I could rattle off about 8 of them that all got marked for serious expansions. And of course, within 2-3 years, they were no longer as bullish, and what they thought was going to open up in India didn't take place. And a lot of those budgets got cut, and a lot of them then switched over to, some of them did obviously have expansions done. I know Glendullen had one, and what's our friend up there at, mental blank, it'll come to me. Anyway, but then a lot of them were also identified that they needed to enhance the visitor experience. And that's exactly what happened to our friend here up near the village of Brora.
In the village of Brora. Yeah, I remember a bit of that happening. A few of them done it now. I mean, like that, I've had the opportunity earlier this year to go through Glenkinchie, the new Glenkinchie experience, which is it's all about color and sensory and flavor, and it's all, and they take you through a miniaturized version of every part of the production, and then you walk into the main part of the production, and they're very big stills at Glenkinchie, just for what it's worth.
Yeah,
bloody huge. Yeah. Look, there's nothing. This is just totally enjoyable. That 26. I could nose that glass all night, but I know we have to press on.
Yeah, and just final comment about it. I have absolutely no need to add a drop of water to that. I think it's a beautiful drop, and it's just come to mind. 10 Innick was the distillery I was trying to think of earlier.
Hugely underrated whiskey.
Yeah, well, they basically built a second distillery across the courtyard from the first one. It was just build a duplicate,
Yeah. Darren did add a drop of water, he's saying. Swig of beer and a dash of water. The fruits became more dark and the vanilla's thicker on palate. Lovely. I'm going to try it then. I'm going to try it with a drop of water.
Yeah, but say you can't knock that down, can you?
No, that's a very good recommendation.
Swig of beer.
Give that a go and see how we go.
A little drop of water.
Let's have it. See how we go there.
I'm using the official Society water adding carafe tonight.
Hold on. I'm also using the official Society water adding carafe.
Mine's official circa 2009, but.
Dave asks, and I know why you're asking, Dave. I'd guess the visitor center upgrades will be better accessibility now. I would hope so. I can't confirm that, but I would assume so. You could easily get in and out of it now, which would be useful.
Hey, Darren, 100% on the vanilla, mate. Vanilla's just pouring out.
It's a very creamy.
It's almost. I don't know if you're Darren. Remind me, you're a Queensland, aren't you? Up north.
He is. He's,
Yes.
yep.
Yeah. I don't know if it's big up there. It's huge in New South Wales, but vanilla slice. That's exactly what I'm getting here. The old vanilla custard on the thick bit of pastry on the base.
All right.
Wow, very good. All right. Are we moving on to number 2?
Yeah, let's do it.
Dobbs just asked the question, any prizes tonight? I mean, look, you're spending an evening with us. What greater prize do you want?
No, it is true. We are going to give away a prize, so stay tuned. We'll do that after, say, the 3rd dram or so.
All right, Distillery 100, not one we've seen a lot of over the journey. This is only cask, the 33rd cask, in fact. And I think it's a shame because I think this is a really interesting distillery. I think it's when you look at the building itself and how they repurposed and basically refurbished what used to be, from memory, it was a cotton mill, wasn't it? I think it was a cotton mill originally.
Yeah, it was a mill. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't remember, but
comes from the Perthshire region. Always been renowned for being a very sweet and honeyed spirit that they make there. Ever since it got acquired by its current owners back in, I should have done my homework for tonight. When was that? 2014, I think. They've really gone with it and taken it amazing places. And it's great that the society's now got a wonderful cask. If you're tuning in and you joined us for our interview bash in Sydney last Saturday, this was one of the casks that we were pouring downstairs. And Matt, I don't know if you remember me saying to you at the time, I thought it was the sleeper of the gig for the 9 whiskies we had on that day. This is the one that I thought would. It wasn't the most sexy or glamorous on the list, but it was the one that I noticed after a while people kept coming back to, enjoying and talking about. Mr. Dundas is joining us. Gordon, good to see you, sir.
What? Where is he?
That is say all the way from. I assume you're in Scotland at the moment. Fantastic.
Gordon, I saw some photos of your new construction of the new site for your offices and for Rosebank recently and everything. It looked very exciting. Very exciting. Andrew, I think there's one date you may have missed on this one. This has always been part of, as far as I can remember, has always been part of Diageo stable. I don't know when you said something happened in 2014. Ownership change of Distillery 100.
100's not Diageo.
Yes, it is.
Hang on. What am I thinking of?
Are you mixing up your Islas and your Mills?
No.
It's the other Strath.
The other Strath. You're quite right. Sorry. So I forget what I said.
Ignore everything he said.
Let's just kill that from. So I was talking about Deanston, right? I've completely.
Right.
I was thinking of Deanston.
No. It's Strathmill. Strathmill. We can say the word.
So when I was talking about a converted cotton mill, I can now understand why. When you're thinking it's Strathmill, you could see the link. There you go. That was
because it was a mill, and you said it was a some sort of maybe it was. In my head.
All right.
Okay. That's
so
great.
Look, let's just scratch that from the record. We're going to rewind a minute, and I'll start again. So this distillery, right? This bottle was still the sleeper, but of course the distillery itself is in the town of Rothes. It's right next to the Glen Rothes distillery. Glen Grant is a little bit higher further up the road. And you really wouldn't know this distillery was here unless you stopped at the gate and looked in. It's and I think it's always really been renowned as just being one of the major contributors to J&B Rare. That's pretty much the distillery's claim to fame, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, it's that and which other distillery was the sort of the main contributor to J&B for a long time? I can't remember. Anyway.
Oh God! All right, forget what I said.
Does anyone know what a chamois is? I can reveal if you like. It's a chamois from Mexico. I found this out the other day from us at Christmas party. A member was telling me it's a sweet and sour Mexican sauce. So it's chamois from Mexico, which is a type of sauce, a Mexican sauce from Mexico. So it's a pretty straightforward title, actually.
All right. You need to just completely ignore everything I'm saying tonight. I'm so off the mark. I was getting confused again with the wrong distillery. This is in Keith. This is the problem when you've been to 100 when you've been to 110 distilleries, as I have now. You occasionally get them mixed up. And I was miles out. This is the distillery in Keith, not Rothers. Gosh,
it's not in Rothers.
I'm not going to say another word tonight. Let's just drink the bloody stuff.
Let's just drink the butter instead. Yeah. Worry less where it came from and worry more about the flavor. This is what is exciting for me is that next year we're going to be celebrating 40 years of the society, which is quite a milestone since its foundation in 1983. In nearly 40 years right now, we've seen 33 casks of this distillery come through tasting panel. So effectively less than one per year. So if you're a fan of this distillery and you're a fan of especially of independently bottled cask strength expressions of it, then it's far and few between, unfortunately. So it's actually quite, it's something to, it's quite, it's uncommon to see, but it's also quite bold and quite exciting as a spirit, I find, especially like this. It's, so much of this spirit is like this distillery does not have a core range. Let's put it that way. I can't walk into your supermarket bottler or, like a Dan Murphy's or whatever and buy a 12-year-old expression of this distillery. So it's kind of exciting that you get to taste these. These are some of my favorite casks of the society are the non-superstar codes like this, where you go, oh, what does Strathmill taste like? It's like, I still don't know after tasting this, but I know that this is because it's such a unique single cask. It's kind of fun. It's a flavor journey that we won't ever get again.
One thing I can tell you now with confidence, now that I've actually remembered exactly where this is and where I'm going now.
Are you sure? Just hold on.
I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
One of the things, I visited this distillery in 2014.
Okay.
And I remember that they told me at the time it had some of the hardest water that was being used in Scotland. A lot of the distilleries will talk about the soft water. This one is remarkably hard, and as a result of that, because of all the calcification and deposits and salts that are in the water there, all the minerals, they actually have to change over a lot of their pipes and their equipment fairly regularly. So unusually hard water, and I'm not going to pretend that we can all smell and taste that right now, but anyway, there you go.
I'm not naming any brands, but you could naming hard water. It'd be a bit like going European oak, American oak.
Yes, that's right.
There's precisely two people watching who will understand that, which is just you and me. We're watching this stream as well as broadcasting to it. But there you go. Yeah.
It was a good line though. I commend you. Yeah.
Real hard water note.
Yeah. I don't know about you, but can you also smell the downwards descending line arms?
I actually get the inside of the Stillman's jacket on a Wednesday afternoon. I reckon it was just
Thursday. Yeah.
Oh, Thursday, right. Yeah. But the inside of his jacket.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. No,
that's great. On a serious note. So look, second fill charred red wine barrique. And this was what caught everyone's attention when we featured this at the gig on Saturday. Not surprisingly, that imparts there's a fruitiness going on there, but it's a dry fruit,
like old leather tobacco pouch a bit as well, like this slight tobacco note.
Bit of that. I used to do a bit of horse riding as a kid, and I'm getting like just the saddle, the horse's saddle, which there's your leather note, I suppose. Yeah. And as we discovered on Saturday at the end of year bash for Sydney, for me personally, just absolutely no need to add water. Absolutely ready to go straight out of the glass. And I suppose some of those other vanilla leather notes that we're getting there, you'd kind of expect. I mean, it did spend 11 years in an ex-bourbon cask before it got transferred to the red wine barrique.
That's great.
And I'll tell you what I like about what certainly the society has done with this, and also what a lot of Scotch distilleries are doing now. Scottish distilleries is it's a second fill red wine barrique. So it's not a first fill. You're not getting the big, huge tannic injection of the red wine cask that you can get from some other distilleries. Certainly, you look at some of the Australian players who are using ex-red wine casks are getting much greater wine influence, and certainly those tannins come through. But you don't get that on this.
No. These second fills. I mean, it's the same with some of these second fill HTMCs we've seen through as well, where there's the subtlety of that heavy toast, medium char, or even second fill STR casks and whatnot that we've seen through, where there's still that influence from the cask and there's still that influence of red wine, but it hasn't overwhelmed the spirit. It hasn't completely washed it away. So you're still getting, like, I love it when you taste a whiskey like this that's obviously had extra cask treatment, but you can still pick up barley notes.
Yeah.
That's like, I can still taste the wash. I can still taste spirit. I can still taste no, I'm not going to say the word terroir, but you can still taste parts of the spirit aspect rather than just cask. And that's exciting. That's exciting in any whiskey.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's interesting. You think about second fill STR casks. I mean, the whole point of STR was to give one more lease of life to a tired cask, to then put it in a second fill again. Like you're kind of resurrecting the dead once more. It's
well, it's not like the Scots will waste it. So it may as well, find a way to find a new life on it again.
Very true. Very true.
Cool. Well, I'd love to hear some of your comments, especially some of your tasting notes for those who are tuning in live and watching along with us. And for those who've just joined in, we are, of course, doing our virtual tasting, our Christmas Cask Live, part of our November virtual. We're live with you tonight. AD
Matt,
and MB.
Sorry, I cut across you there. Have you got any beer left in your glass?
I've got 2/3.
Yeah. If you go back to your beer after having some of this Cask 100, there's a real beautiful stone fruit that comes through on the beer.
It's a great beer.
Peaches.
Stuff. Yeah.
Oh, glorious stuff.
Yeah. Huge fan.
Wow.
Yeah, no, they definitely, I mean, hops is fruit, but it still, it pulls all that, it does pull all that fruit out of the, out of the barley on that beer. It's great. Shall we press on?
Let's press on.
Oh, that was a photo that I didn't use. So here we go tonight. We actually have a rather special little giveaway. One of our members, Dov, has actually created a bunch of Christmas cakes for some of the team and for some lucky members. So we're giving, I've got one to give away tonight at least. So if you take a photo of your setup tonight, of your drams, of your snacks, your beer, everything coming together, this society rum-soaked Christmas cake could be yours. So just pop a photo in the Facebook group or send it to us or tag us on Instagram or hit us up on Twitter, whichever socials you use, wherever you use it. Dare I even say, if you take a video of your setup and post it to TikTok, we'll probably still find it. So just put all your feelers out and take a photo of your setup tonight. We always like doing setup photos of the tasting mat, of your glassware, of the samples, of your snacks, of the beer. It's a good time to be festive and have a few drams together. So post up your photos and you could go, you're just the best, the most creative, or the one we just randomly pick with no reason or rhyme or reason will win. So pop it in the group. Group's probably easiest to do. Otherwise, yeah, too easy.
Did you just mention TikTok?
Yeah, I mentioned it. It's a thing.
That's a strike, isn't it?
Yeah, probably. 35.295, mythical and magical.
Wow. Well, look, once again, if you were there at our Sydney event on Saturday, we featured this. It was downstairs. Murray and myself were serving it. And needless to say, word got around the venue pretty quickly. And this was the first bottling to be exhausted on the day. Now, was that because it's such an amazing dram or because it was a premium bottling and everyone wanted to race to try and taste the 26-year-old? The answer is both.
Yeah. I was hoping you'll say that. The answer is both. And there's a couple of things to remark on about this bottling. Distillery 35 is a member favorite, as a society favorite. We love our 35s. Second thing to note, this has had 26 years and a first fill toasted hogshead. Like a 26-year-old first fill. Like you routinely see 24, 26, 28-year-old second fill, refill, etc. But to see 26 years in our first fill is quite simply bonkers. That it's so odd. And especially, and also the third thing I'll just remark on about this is that, yeah, there's always going to be, I will always be accused of bias when saying this kind of thing, but it is insane value for a 26-year-old cask strength whiskey. $470 sounds like a lot of money. Sometimes it's like $470. Yeah, that's like 2 bottles. That could be 2 really good bottles. But it's also one incredible 26-year-old, just so full of life, this one. Wow.
Matt, at the risk of asking you a personal question that might make you delve into your inner core here, but at one point, was this distillery not your favorite distillery? Is that still the case, or have you moved on and found other lovers?
I go through phases. 35 for a long time was my favorite. It's still very special to me. I still I know this. I'm just like, that's incredible. I love this whiskey.
Yeah.
I love the fact that it can, like, it's so roasty and toasty and fascinating. I think what I loved about 35s a few years ago, especially, was it was like the Heinz era, 57 varieties. You know, there's like, we had 13-year-olds from Chenin Blanc casks. We had 11-year-old ex-bourbon. We had 14-year-old ex-port. We had 6-year-old first fill PX. We had 28-year-old refill bourbon. There was such a plethora of amazing sandbox kind of stuff going on. And it wasn't just sort of like, oh, it's a 12, it's a 13, it's 14. No, it was like everything from 6 to, if I recall, a 33-year-old that was all between probably 8 to 9 to 10 different cask treatments and different things going on. So it was always something different. It was always such a journey with this, that the spirit seemed so versatile that it could cover so many things.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it's my absolute all-time favorite anymore, but it's still my you know that question when you get asked that question as a whiskey nerd. You'll get asked that question. Oh, what's your favorite whiskey? It's like whatever. My answer these days is whatever you're pouring into my glass. It's because it's like
standard brand ambassador response. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, there's so many amazing spirits. There's so many amazing flavors and qualities out there that you can't name one in particular. Like, I know your favorite distillery, but I'm sure, but I bet you can't name your favorite whiskey of all time, in that you'd be happy just to drink that whiskey and that's it. Because then that's
Society 29.88.
No. I know that, and I remember the 29.88, and I remember the discussion around that, but it's not that cask. You couldn't just drink that cask forever. And also, that's not even your favorite whiskey.
Oh gosh, can't I? Bloody hell.
It's also one cask.
Yeah, no, I take your point. I mean, the other thing about Distillery 35, and we're moving further and further away from that era, so we're going to see less and less of them. But, you know, the word around town, the industry gossip at the time, was that Distillery 35 was the distillery. At the time, it was owned by Glenmorangie, and it was, the word on the street was that it was where Dr. Bill Lumsden would, do some experiments. And if stuff worked for for this distillery, almost, he would then... He would then, no, I stopped myself. He would then, apply that knowledge and that wisdom to what he was doing at Glenmorangie. And so, yeah, to your point earlier about how the Heinz and the 53 different varieties or whatever it was it 57, 53? Anyway,
57.
57, yeah. Part of that was just a function of the spirit being filled into so many casks, in the spirit of experimentation, to find out what worked and what didn't. And the society, that was all under the Glenmorangie umbrella. And of course, from 2005 or 2006 onwards, whatever it was, the society was also under the Glenmorangie banner and received the benefit of that. I remember going into the society warehouse in 2008 and just seeing so many casks from 35 that the society had first dibs on and was able to grab. And, obviously one of the reasons why we've just seen so many amazing casks over the journey. Sorry, I might be wrong on my facts here. I think Glenmorangie offloaded this distillery, was it 2008, I think, to the French company.
I was going to say 06 or 08. You're in the ballpark anyway. Yeah.
I'm reasonably confident on 08, but then I've also had a few other stuff up tonight, so I'm not going to put my balls on the line. Anyway, Yeah, and so we're moving further from that period when that era of casks where there was just so much fun and experimentation going on.
Grandma's wardrobe on the nose, so rich, it's magical. It is a magical nose, this one. Mythical and magical is a really good name for it, I think, because it's just there's so much going on in that whiskey. And it's and as to Andrew's point, this was sort of that sandbox era of casks that especially that year and that era where Dr. Bell and Distillery 35 almost did it as well. Had so much experimentation going on, and to see what would work for their other distilleries. But for those who have been members for a while, you'll remember it'll be 5 years ago. Around 5 years ago, we were getting a whole bunch of, even 5-6 years ago, we were getting a whole bunch of 20 and 21-year-old first fill toasted hogsheads from this distillery. One was called Miss American Pie from memory, and there was another one called there was a few. There was a symphony in 4 movements or something as well. Anyway, there was like 5 or 6 that we saw, and then we saw a few 23, 24-year-olds, and now we're seeing a 26-year-old. I don't think we're going to see really many more. I mean, this is sort of a relic of another era.
Yeah. Well, and what I love about this is that all those wonderful hallmarks of this distillery and good distillation and good maturation are right there up front on the nose. They're there on the palate, and then you swallow, and it's in the finish when you then get the oak come through. You get this beautiful footprint that left behind by the oak, and it's not bitter, it's not dry. There's still a sweetness to it, and yet you know that wood is having a say in the matter here, and it's just so wonderful.
Do you get like a creme brulee on that, like that finish? Like I get like the freshly blowtorched creme brulee sort of vibe.
The answer is yes, I certainly do. To be honest, I think you could have said any descriptor then, and I would have come along for the ride. It is so complex. There's everything in this. It's just amazing.
It's like old rum and cinnamon sticks and stuff going on.
Thank you, Dov. You've restored my confidence in myself tonight. Yeah, apparently 2008 was when it changed hands.
There you go. You're back on form, and this is also not Strathmill Distillery for those playing along at home. This is
oh, ouch! Right,
right, there you go. Yeah, I had to come on. I had to do it. You had to do it. Come on.
You're going to use that for the rest of my life now, aren't you?
No, just for the rest of the evening. I promise I won't bring it up again.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
It's a real bloody shame because this is the Strathmill tartan I'm wearing tonight. But anyway, yeah.
You had me on the edge of my seat for a good 5 minutes, though. It was great. It was a mill. God, it was, wasn't it? Wait, what kind of mill? It was great. I promise you, it was fantastic.
I just love it when I've done a lot of recording in a recording studio, and you completely cock up and you fix it in the mix. Very hard to do that in a live stream, folks.
Yeah. There's no post-production edits here. No post.
No. Oh, I dug my hole. I'll bury myself in it. Don't worry. Oh man, what an amazing drop!
That the fruit now again on that beer, and the fruit on that whiskey.
Oh, okay. Let's go back to the beer. Good call.
Bangers, fantastic. Oh, the actual normal Menon. By the way, big shout out to Mal, who was recently a Melbourne member and is now an Adelaide member. Good to see you, Mal. And yes, the time change has confused you on your first virtual in your new house. I hope you're enjoying knocking out all the termites.
Well, to be fair, he's in Adelaide. It is 2016 there.
Oh, dear. To all the Adelaidean members that I'm going to see as early as tomorrow night's event with Jenny, please note that was Andrew saying that, not me. Don't kick me out. That's okay. And as I said earlier, 4 of these 6 casks we're featuring tonight are brand new releases, as in never seen before. So they're available online now. You can jump on them literally right now. We've sent out an email at 7 o'clock. They've gone live. So don't miss out. They will be featured throughout December and elsewhere. But, it's the nature of single cask. Once it's gone, it's gone. Pardon me. Okay.
The other thing that's very impressive about this is, 26 years old, still very, very lively at 57.4%.
Yeah, it's held up, hasn't it? Yeah.
It's
also doesn't drink like it's 57 for me. It drinks like it's 50, 51. Like it's
exactly. No aggression here at all. And I guess that was a bit of a euphemism for me saying I have no compulsion to add water. Just lovely as it is.
For those who are newer to the stream, maybe that's something that Andrew and I've talked about a few times, like that whole when and when not to add water. And my rule of thumb has always been ex-bourbon barrels, the young ex-bourbon barrels, 8, 9, 10, 11-year-old ex-bourbon, go nuts. Ex-sherry, tread carefully, but old whiskey, almost never. Even if it's higher proof like this, if it's 57.1, even after 26 years, I'm not inclined to add water to that. I feel like it will fall apart rather quickly.
Yeah, good point about ignore the ABV. At 26 years, if there's any volatiles and aggressives that were in the spirit, they'll have gone by now. That's the whole point of particularly in a first fill.
Lovely. It's so rich and spicy. That's a Christmas dram. And this is Christmas Casks. This is a Christmas Cask virtual tasting. So there you go. That is a good Christmas dram.
That comment's from Darren, by the way. You probably can't sell that, but
what you've been tagged about showing who we get our nosing advice from? What? Thank you, Daz. Yes, and I'll see you on the 10th of December, unless you're at one of the partner bars in Melbourne next week. Look, I'm always around. I'm always somewhere, but I'll see you on the 10th of. I know you're at the Christmas party on the 10th. I'll see you there. All right. Don't forget to take your photos. Take your photos of your home dramming setup, and I think we might move on to whiskey number 4. Jam-packed.
Dave, I agree with you there. Dave just made a comment. He's getting creme brulee type flavors on the nose with 35. 100%. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's such a dessert whiskey, isn't it?
It's that classic toasted vanilla note that you get from time in a American oak cask, and particularly if it's been a toasted hogshead, that's what you'd expect.
I'm going to. I poured the whole sample into my glass. I'm going to park the rest of that for a while. See how that evolves over the next sort of say 20, 30 minutes. I mean,
I got impatient, and I've actually poured our fourth whiskey, 41.142.
Right.
Did I jump the gun then?
I'm on it.
No, well done.
I'm on it.
You're on it. Now that's a perfect color for me. Not pale, not too dark, just glorious copper in the middle, bordering on rose gold, and just stunning.
I know what you're saying there, and I'm inclined to agree. That is, it's a very desirable color, and even though color doesn't tell you much, it almost tells you nothing to do with the whiskey. No, I know we disagree on this, but I will say, I do get a bit worried when I see a really, really pale whiskey. When I see something really pale, I'm like, cool. I want to see what that is. But when I see something that's like pitch black, I get worried. That it's like,
hey, we're in the same camp there. I agree with you.
Like, you see something that's really pale, and you think maybe it's a 5th refill Strathyla something. And it's maybe it's developed really nicely as a long refill, and it works the same in the wine world, by the way, and beer world. It's no different. It's like if a winemaker's trying to produce a really good shardy and it's way too dark or it's way too light, the color's not going to fit right. I mean, it's the same in whiskey.
Yeah, and that's what I like about this, because it's strangely enough, it's almost neutral. In that it's not so pale that you question its youth or you question how old the cask was, and it's not so dark that you question either the cask it's been in or the amount of sherry influence or the possible addition of caramel, which we know the society wouldn't do. But in any event, as I say, it's just that perfect halfway point, and therefore I find it extraordinarily appealing. And it's dark enough to tell you it's either got a fair bit of age or it's had some sherry wood influence. We know it's the latter, and you hold it up to the nose, and that is confirmed.
Oh. So, just a small note on this cask: 41.142, jam packed with dark fruits. This, if you want to nerd out on this just for a second, I'll get Andrew to talk a bit about the distillery, but in terms of the cask, this is a part of a series of casks that Kai and Ewan in our spirits team have developed really great relationships with sherry houses. And that means Miguel Martin, that means Gonzalez Bias, that means a whole bunch of really small sherry houses around the UK, around Jerez and around elsewhere, which have been able to provide these casks. And we are just small enough as a whiskey club to be able to source these casks that would normally be off limits to some of the bigger buyers and some of the bigger distilleries. But this is a great example of where the sherry maturation process has been start to finish through the SMWS, and the maturation has been start to finish the SMWS through that spirit, which is kind of exciting. It's not the usual. We don't do things the usual way. We do things pretty often a little bit more unique, a little bit more labor intensive in some ways of sourcing these casks and having fun with them rather than just, there's bottlers out there that will buy off brokers lists and just fill what they can and grab what they can and maybe touch up what they can. It's not really about that. It's about start to finish accountability of that spirit and seeing what comes out the other side.
Yeah, wow. Amazing distillery. It's one that you don't often see. It doesn't really have a commercial expression. It was part of the flora and fauna range. So I think it had a 16-year-old in that range from memory.
Andrew, I've lost track of the number of times I've said that a distillery doesn't have a core range and someone's piped up and go, flora and fauna. And okay, hold on, sort of thing. Yeah, it's like, yeah, sure. Yep.
Yeah, fair call. No, fair call. If you are in Aberlour, the village in Aberlour and Speyside, and you're driving south towards Glenfarclas or driving further south down to Glenlivet, the distillery is down on the right-hand side on the road as you head down there. It's been around for a long, long time. It was built in 1851 from memory. And it had a bit of a checkered history. It's had fires and disasters along the way. In 1965, they switched over to steam heating. So you'd have to go back to pre-1965 to find some of the real old school sort of stuff. And it's been in the Diageo stable, originally the DCL, the Distillery Company Limited, as it used to be called, but what a lot of people now call the Johnny Walker Company, which, another way to look at it. It's been a part of the Diageo stable since 1925. And as I say, the distillery that doesn't get a lot of limelight, it contributes chiefly to the blends, but just a wonderful drop. I've always loved it. It's one of those classic distilleries. I went to this one in 2011, and it's just that classic Victorian distillery that's been added to and expanded over time. And so each part of the production is kind of this tack on, or they've squeezed things into a bit of space. So it's a bit of a maze. Again, obvious reason why there's no visitor centre there. Lovely drop. And I'd have to say that the society has just bottled a string of sensational 41s over the journey. They've all been amazing. And this is no exception. This is just beautiful.
Would you agree with me, or you can disagree? Would you agree this is not your typical sherried, like big sherried whiskey? This is
100%. You're absolutely right. I agree. Yeah, it's not screaming fruitcake at you. It's not screaming boozy prunes and Christmas cake notes, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. It's got a lot more complexity to it. It's got a lot more going on, which can
I just give a little bit of insight, and it's a bit of a nerdy moment going back to ancient history now, but in 2004, 2005, around that period, the flora and fauna bottling, of which we spoke earlier, was around, and it was actually, word went out around the Australian whiskey community that it was one of the premium sherried whiskies you could grab at that time. 2004, 2005, not a lot of choices in that area. You either just bought anything from the Macallan stable or Glenfarclas 105, something like that. So if you really wanted a really heavy sherry hit, word went round to get the flora and fauna expression of this distillery. And the 16-year-old was amazing at that time. Later incarnations of that bottling were unusually dark, and we suspect our friend D150 might have had something to do with that. It really did have that reputation at that time. And Matt, just to put some context there, the flora and fauna expression from this distillery was released way back in 1991.
Oh, wow. That's going back a bit.
Yeah.
There was a well, I think it was Pip said something. Pip Hills, the founder of the SMWS, said something about flora and fauna and how he thinks that they basically copied the society's model of releasing single malts, and he wrote about it in his book, which was quite a read about how him trying to source casks out of DCL and not having and them not understanding why at the time, and I think that's kind of and that there's that quote of Pip's which I love, which is those who thought we couldn't be done were so dull. And he talked about that a little bit in the Founder's Tale book, which is a bit of a controversial read in some ways.
I found it a challenging read, to be honest.
Yeah, I just took it one chapter at a time kind of book. It was just sort of like there's parts in there which are really sort of lots of fun and adventure, but other parts which are like a bit sort of okay.
Yeah,
it's not very cohesive. Let's put it that way.
No, that's a great word. You're exactly right. That's how I put it. But all that aside, what a lovely drop. And as you say, it's not your textbook classic Oloroso sherry dram.
No.
But yeah, just a lovely drop. Now, Matt, Darren's brought up a hell of a question. Do you want to bring that up?
So one for both of you: when the SMWS acquires a cask, is it that you, i.e., you get a cask and there's a quantity that gets placed in a cask or SMWS choosing? Are you betting preloaded cask or buying distillate to be casked in a barrel of SMWS choosing? Darren,
all of the above.
All of the above. These days, it's more the latter. It's more buying distillate. It's buying new make and putting it in our wood. It's better for us. It's better for them. It's better for the distilleries not to sell off their mature stocks. It's better for us to buy new make and then manage that wood policy from start to finish. That's about 70. Last time I checked, 75% of output is like that now. However, there's opportunity. I heard of a recent opportunity that Kai was talking about where there was a parcel of casks, for lack of a better phrase, a warehouse of casks, I should say. It was about 180 casks or so that were available, and it's like they went through and tasted a lot of them and tasted all of them and said, all right, we'll take these. And there's opportunities where this comes about, where there's opportunity to buy existing mature stock, but more and more it's buying spirit and maturing it in our own wood that way. And Andrew was in on this. Andrew saw all this. It was all the there's something like, last time I checked, it was something like 63, 64 different wood types maturing in our warehouse. And that's everything from ex-bourbon to ex-Oloroso to ex-Moselle and Moscatel and Muscat and extra. And so it's if we control that wood from start to finish, it's kind of exciting, rather than just sort of like what a lot of bottlers will do, which is buy off brokers lists and buy what's available, which is a very sort of quick and fast way of doing things. So you've got to play long game. It's a long game whiskey.
I was about to say, you've really got to play both games. You've got to look to the immediate needs of the society, and we've got, actually I don't even know the number now, however many thousand members around the world who are thirsty, and we've got to fill that immediate need, and we've got to look for where's the society going to be in 10 years' time. And that might sound far-reaching or mythical or strange, but don't forget, we've been doing this since 1983. We're coming up to 40 years of doing this. You do need to think long-term. And if you want to make sure the society is a going concern and that members are enjoying amazing whiskies in 10 years' time, you've got to be laying the stocks down for that now. And the way the industry works at the moment, there's a lot of mileage in going directly to the distilleries with your own casks and say, please give us what the industry calls fillings. And exactly. Just supply the casks, get the fillings done, lay them down in your own warehouse and put stocks down and then that way. What that also allows us to do is it gives us the ability to trade and swap. So we have a whole stack of stuff that is fresh fillings. It gets to 7, 8 years old, 9 years old. Some of it will be brilliant and just great for what our needs are at the time. We may also decide that in actual fact, we should maybe trade some of those for some casks from another distillery that we weren't able to obtain at that time, for example. So there's a lot going on. It's you really can't pigeonhole it and say that it's one specific strategy or method that the society is doing to supply casks to members at the moment.
It's a mixture. It's a healthy mixture. And Andrew's point about trade is very much a part of it, of picking up, working out what third party stocks are available and what else is available. Yeah. Great question. That's probably question of the night. Actually, that's really good.
Almost worthy of a prize. That question.
That is almost worthy of a prize. Darren will reach out. We'll reach out. In the meantime, however, Andrew and I might pour the next dram just to move the cogs along here.
Now, Matt, we're going to start with peated and then finish with lightly peated. Is that right?
No, we're going lightly peated, then peated. We're going to 4.306.
Very good. Sorry, I made the mistake of looking down at my tasting mat rather than my menu.
No. Yeah, so just let's follow the menu here. So we're going to go tarred and feathered, followed by smoke and mirrors. So we'll
good call. No, well done. Let's enjoy the Strathmill. This will be great.
Yeah, this is a peated Strathmill. I had some photos. Doesn't matter. Anyway, and it was also worth mentioning, by the way, we released 24.163 today. It's probably one of the rarest offerings from the society. It's just worth remarking on that came out today, and is available on the website, as well as everything you're tasting tonight. But in the meantime, shall we move to tarred and feathered? I should probably bring that up a bit further.
Tarred and feathered. I might just enjoy the whiskey if it's okay by you.
I don't know about that. This is our premium malt of the month for November. So this was our we had 2 malts of the month for the November outturn. If you've been following along, the 68, the frankincense in a banana den, or bananas in a frankincense den. Sorry, I'm getting that around the wrong way. And then 4.306 tarred and feathered, a premium malt of the month. It's kind of fun actually to see this happen, because last November we had a 20-year-old Distillery 4 as our premium malt of the month, and then this November we've been able to do the same. 2 totally different casks and many cask numbers apart, but a full bourbon maturation 20-year-old Orkney spirit. Now I'm going to say as well, this I deliberately didn't say single cask. If you take a look at the initial cask and final cask there, initial cask says ex-bourbon hogsheads, plural, and then final cask ex-bourbon hogshead. Even in the tasting notes on the bottle there, it says on the second half, single malt originally from bourbon hogsheads married in this cask. We're not trying to hide the fact there's no hiding that it's not single cask. This is a single malt. It is still absolutely a single malt whiskey. It's just not a single cask. It's from a series of casks that we picked up from Distillery 4 that were then married into additional casks. And take one nose of that and tell me that that's a bad thing. It's like I know there's some single cask hardcores in our membership base that will say, like, oh, it's not single cask, I'm not interested in this kind of thing. But it's very light for me initially on the nose. Really, like it's very subtle on the nose. Maybe we've just come off a very intriguing sherried whiskey, but
I think you've got to almost follow the textbooks, don't you? This distillery doesn't make a heavily peated malt. Its standard make is light to medium peated, and then you've got 20 years in the cask. And as we know, the phenols in parts per million reduce over time in the cask. So at 20 years old, that peat's going to get less and less. If someone gave me any 20-year-old from this distillery, whether it was a society bottling or a commercial bottling, official bottling, I'd be going, yep, this is about where I would expect it to be. And, again, look, I'm possibly playing on reputation and tradition and history here, but certainly back in the 90s when the current malt whiskey boom had its genesis and started, this distillery was renowned for being the great all-rounder. That was the classic tagline that the whiskey writer Michael Jackson gave to this distillery. It was the great all-rounder, a little bit of everything. And, a bit of sweetness, bit of honey, bit of oak, bit of peat, bit of smoke, a little bit of citrus, and of course the malt shines through. And 20 years on, all those things are still here.
Yeah, and I can see why Michael liked this distillery so much. It has so much to offer. It's a very soft style of peat. And it's a lovely style of whiskey.
It's really interesting. I mean, sorry, going off on a tangent for a moment. It's no secret Michael Jackson adored Macallan. It was his favorite distillery in his Bible back in the days. From the first edition in 1989, up to the last one before he died, Macallan always scored very, very highly. And this distillery came under the same ownership umbrella. It was Highland Distillers at the time. Today we know it as Edrington. And I think he just, whatever they were doing as a company and the flavor profiles that they were trying to achieve, it really pushed Michael's buttons. And not surprisingly, Highland Park was also very well reviewed by him in anything he wrote about it. And there's two reasons for that. One, because I think he had a bias, and two, because he was correct. It's really good whiskey.
Yeah. Maybe there was a bias. I don't know.
Well, I mean, you can say the same thing about Jim Murray and Ardbeg. According to Jim, Ardbeg couldn't do a foot wrong.
He says the same thing about Glenmorangie as well.
Very true. Yeah.
He called Elanta the best Scotch whiskey ever made or something, so.
Yeah, he also said that about Ballantine 17 one year, so come on.
I hope no one shows this to Jim. Anyway.
Jim, I haven't seen you since 2015. I hope you're doing well.
2015? I can't remember. I met him once in Tasmania. Was that 2015? 2014?
Time flies. Let's be honest. COVID's thrown out our sense of history and memory and time. What a lovely dram.
It's so like delicate, but it's like so nuanced and so rich though at the same time. Delicate and rich. Does that make sense? It's like it's tarry, but it's not too heavy either.
Dave, I can see your comment there. You're absolutely correct. I won't buy into that, but yes, that did happen. So we'll just move on.
And that's the comment that he's referring to. I'm just going to throw it up on screen just for a second, and then go back to your previous comment of, is that due to the annual share evaporation, where they've left some inside the initial cask to do other things? It's usually the latter, Dave. Distillery 4, I almost said it. Distillery 4 in Orkney fill at a very high strength, as with all Edrington distilleries. And so it wouldn't have been so much to do with angel share. It would have had to do more to do with just managing supply and playing around with it. And this turns into sort of almost a modern day interpretation of what we were saying before with that 35. Gives Ewan Campbell, our spirits manager, an opportunity to play with his spirit and mess around with things, for lack of a better phrase, in terms of like creating something different. So there may have been, say, I don't know, 600-900 liters from other casks that go, oh, what happens if we put that in second fill port or ex-refill sherry or something like that? So that we may see other releases in future that have played into that a bit. But yeah, it's a chance to, again, experiment with flavor. Because if you just put it all out as, ex-bourbon 20-year-old, that's a lot of suddenly ex-bourbon 20-year-old whiskey. But it's an opportunity to go, oh, there's this and there's this and there's this and there's different flavors and different profiles and different ages and different styles. And that's kind of the journey. It's the journey's always flavor. So
I think the other interesting thing is if you look at the official distillery bottlings, and certainly if you go to the distillery, and again, this is part of Edrington's overall corporate philosophy and culture, they will really push home the sherry point. When you go to the distillery and if you go on, you can, what they call the Unsen Magnus, Unsen Magnan. What's his name? Anyway,
Magnus Unsen.
Magnus Unsen, other way around. Yes.
Yeah.
I think he started Strathmill, didn't he, from memory? Anyway.
Yeah, he's the founder of Strathmill. He built Strathmill brick by brick and then went and started Highland Park. He was never a monk or a priest ever. He just was anyway, sorry. Okay.
I'm having a great night. Is it obvious that I've not slept for 2 days? Is it? Can people tell? Anyway, my point being, you can go to the distillery and you can do an amazing tasting there, which has a fancy name, which I just got wrong. And you will taste the, various expressions from this distillery, 8, 10, 12, 14, 18, 25, 30, 40. And as you go up in age range, the emphasis on sherry is huge. And they really talk about it. And that's all part of Edrington's thing. Again, remember, this is the same company that owns Macallan and really pushes the sherry angle on that. And so to have this distillery number 4 from a bourbon cask is a little bit, just different to the commercial expressions. And this is what I love about the society. It's the opportunity to taste a distillery in a light and in a fashion very different to what you'll get if you go down to your local bottle shop.
Yeah, it's worlds apart, and it's so. I mean, I saw a comment just earlier. Andrew, you might be able to see who said this. Definitely a more delicate version of the Stromness from last year. Yes, it was
Hansen. Hansen's chimed in with that comment.
Hansen, good to see you, mate. Stromness last year was a bit heavier. This is definitely a lightly peated 20-year-old, but it's just chalk and cheese. But that's the nature of single cask whiskey, or in this case, single batch. I don't know what to call it, but it's the nature of different releases that they carry different flavors, and it's more delicate, but it's more. I'd argue it's to go back to Distillery 26. It's silkier. It's a bit more balanced in my opinion. It's got a lot more nuance to it. So I like this. I like this one a lot.
What's not to like?
Yeah, this is our premium malt of the month. It's not what's not to like. It's a good point. It's what's not to like. And Distillery 4 says, Facebook user, sorry, again, I can't see your name on this one. The 4 distillate goes so well in a good bourbon cask. Interesting to see. It goes so well in a good bourbon cask. Interesting to see a predominantly sherry cask OB and a lovely delicate profile. Yeah, absolutely. And Betty says, I like this. Good to see you, Betty. What were you that excited for tonight, AD?
It's been a big week, ladies and gents. You have to forgive me. I know I've been off point on several comments and points tonight, but yes, I have not slept very much. Such is the nature of my other job that I have.
Other job? Come on. Anyway, here we go. Let's pour the next whiskey. I did actually. I always skip the slides. Anyway, there's Tarred and Feathered. 4.306. Yeah, it's premium malt of the month. I think there's a few left on the website, not too many. But we shall move on now to 53.394 Smoke and Mirrors, an 11-year-old peated Isla whiskey from Distillery 53, refilled ex-bourbon hogshead, 57.4%.
Matt, classic example of, we were talking about color earlier.
We were talking about color. And you and I disagree on some points of color, but we agree on others.
I look at that, and it's certainly pale compared to the 41 we had just 2 drams ago. And yet there's still a glow to that. There's still an appealing light coming from that paler whiskey. And because I know it's from Distillery 53, I look at that color and I go, you know what? This is going to be bloody good. And of all we've had this conversation before, probably not in this forum, but at elsewhere, about which Isla distilleries really pair well with sherry casks, for example.
Yep.
And I don't think this distillery is one of them. I reckon this distillery really, it's perfect marriage is in ex-bourbon casks, and you're seeing that right here.
I agree. There are a few examples of where this does work really well in sherry, though, as well.
They're few and far between would be my position on that, but that's okay.
Do you remember this year's festival bottling of Throw Away the Cork?
How can you forget it? It was stunning.
It was stunning. That was an 8-year-old from predominantly ex-sherry cask.
Yep.
It is far and few between, but I agree with you. This is one of those distilleries that excels in ex-bourbon, and there's a reason why it's called Mr. Consistent or Mr. C. It is a consistently good spirit, a consistently good example of this distillate. Oh,
oh yeah, exactly.
Just it's the first time properly nosing it. And I'm like, okay, there we go.
I don't know if I've got a pretty fancy microphone down here. I don't know if it just picked up the sound of me inhaling, but oh my gosh, that was.
Wait. Here we go. Now, you're tuned into watching us live making inhaling noises with our noses. This is what whiskey entertainment is. There you go.
Oh, who said that? Sorry, there's a comment here. Who's come up with that one? Darren again. We left half the 35, and it's mind blowing after the number 4.
Here's my half 35 still sticking around. Oh, how much is that just mellowed out?
Oh wow!
A bit of time in the glass. Yeah.
Man.
Wow. It was so like peppery and big when I first poured it, but now it's almost perfumed now after a bit of time. It's become a bit like
that's just like a beautiful Swedish massage on your nose, isn't it?
Swedish nasal massage.
Yeah. Back to the peat.
I wonder if color is due to different bourbon distillery casks. Ooh, that's a really cool question. I mean, the big 4. You've got the big 4 in the US. You've got your Makers, your Heaven Hill, your Buffalo, and your Beam. But I mean, I don't know if any of them would actually create a different color profile as to the ex-bourbon barrels. I mean, some of them come flat packed and end up in mishmash of other casks anyway. But it's a good question. I don't think so. Scott Mansfield, by the way, big shout out to Scotty, our Queensland state ambassador. Horse impersonations. I know exactly what you mean there. And I try to avoid that in any live stream capacity. Otherwise, you end up with a whole live stream of noises, and it becomes way too intolerable. I love Horst. I can't watch his videos. I'm sorry. He's got the coolest URL in the world, though, doesn't he? I think he has whiskey.com. I think he has that or something. He's got like the coolest URL. I mean, you can't beat that. You can't beat whiskey.com or whatever he's got, or something like maltwhiskey.com or something. It's a pretty cool setup. Hope you're well, Scott. Give me a call.
Scott, you'll be pleased to know I swung by Lindor's Abbey distillery in Scotland just 9 weeks ago now. And I said hello for you. I was a bit surprised that you graffitied your name all over the side of the warehouse wall there, but okay. I mean, I know you love the place, but that's fine.
Mansfield was here.
3 times he put it, yeah. What a lovely drop. Again, classic Distillery 53, isn't it?
Yeah.
What I love, you get the peat, you get the smoke. That's a given. What's really weird about Distillery 53, not a lot of people know this. We're sharing an industry secret here, but every drop of Distillery 53 leaves Islay and gets matured on the mainland. And so it always amuses me when people smell a 53 and go, oh, I get the sea, I get those maritime notes. And yet they are there. It's the most amazing paradox, and no one's ever been able to explain it. For a distillery whose whiskey is matured on the mainland, why does it still have that maritime character? And yet it's there. And what I love is you get that peat, you get that smoke, you get that maritime spray, you get the walking by on the beach with seaweed rotting in the drying sun. And yet, here's the kicker, you get the malt. The barley is always there, the sweet barley malt. There is a sweetness to this distillery that I love. And with the exception of 1 or 2 sherry cask bottlings, as we talked about earlier, Matt, this is where I reckon this distillery sings.
Yeah.
It's not overpowered by the wood. The spirit is just gorgeous. It's ironic because it is the biggest distillery on Islay. It's now one of the biggest in Scotland overall. It is producing heavily peated whiskey for the blends, And yet, when you get an amazing single cask at this relatively young age of 11 years old, it is just so shiny and amazing.
Yeah, no, thoroughly agree. What you just said, Andrew, sort of puts to bed the whole stupid terroir argument, doesn't it, in some ways? You know, that whole sort of like, oh, well, our casks are up against a wall, which is up against a sea channel where the water hits the wall of the warehouse every day, and then that's where it gets its flavor from. Pull the other one.
And just, by the way, you've brought up a great photo there on the left-hand side. That is the Kalila Distillery warehouse. And for those of you who are keen, I can tell you a little industry secret. There are 6,000 casks of Lagavulin in that distillery right now.
It's almost like they've got the same parent company. They can share warehousing.
Who'd have thunk?
Wow.
Man. Great whiskey to finish on.
Great comment here. I'm guessing that's Daz, who said it's an interesting phenomenon being described by Andrew. I wonder if we're really looking at a combination of psychosomatic sea spray and the inherently saline nature of Isla Peat.
That's actually our good Sydney member friend, David Gilkison.
Oh, David Gilkison, good to see you, mate. Maybe they use seawater in the wash. Maybe they do. They'll never admit it though. Yeah, and Scott Mansfield, 53 most consistently good dram. Yeah, Scott,
I'd agree with that. Again, I'm sorry, folks. I apologize. I keep on bringing history and my old days into the discussion here. But you wind the clock back 20 years, and there was a vibe around the Australian whiskey community at the time that simply said, Matt, you might even be able to weigh in on this as well, but there was just a vibe that the best, almost said the distillery, the best whiskies from Distillery 53 were amongst the independent bottlers rather than the OBs. The IBs just seemed to grab something that the OBs didn't. I think that's changed a little bit. I think there's been some amazing official bottlings from this distillery in recent times. But yeah, it's always just been an amazing distillery that the society is just, it's Mr. Consistency, Mr. C. It just delivers time and time and time again.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there, Andrew. It's just about that whole sort of it was the independent bottlers that pioneered these distilleries. However, it was we wouldn't know it, like malt whiskey drinkers would not know about these distilleries if not for the independent bottlings of them. Like we wouldn't be here discussing a 53 if it wasn't for what had come before it. And that's kind of exciting, and that's something that even the society in itself has pioneered over the years of distilleries that were bottled by the society as single malts, let alone single casks, where they were single casks, well before the distillery did. Perfect example is Distillery 30.1 was the first single malt bottled by that distillery. Same for Distillery. I don't know the code for brewer, but you know what I'm saying. That was bottled as a single malt before they bottled as a single malt, and that's kind of exciting. Is that we know this as a Mr. C. We know this as what it is now because of that innovation from bottlers. And and you're saying there's been some great OBs since, some original bottlings since, because of that, and that's true.
My apologies to David, by the way. I've just had another Strathfield moment and confused you with wonderful Sydney member Cameron. It's David from Canberra, of course. My apologies. Boy, I'm having a good night.
David, I'm going to call you David Strathmill from now on. I hope you don't mind. You've got a new surname. Your surname is now Strathmill.
I think it's pretty clear, Matt. I need to resign after this virtual. I'm not doing well.
Dear, oh dear. The IBs opened the door, and interesting to see some of the bigger owners and realizing that all the distilleries have merit and individual nature. Yeah, it absolutely opened the door for all these unique flavor profiles and unique profiles from these distilleries that otherwise would just go into blending and bottling as they already have.
Matt, I think you were with me at another event with another organisation we're both associated with, where we enjoyed the Stitchell release from this distillery. Were you there that day? And that's a very lowly peated. That's again worth discussing. This distillery makes a lowly peated and an unpeated variation, again because it's supplying make for the blends. And even that lowly peated, in fact, the Stitchell was unpeated, if I remember correctly. Probably haven't given tonight's bloody track record. It was an absolute winner. So I think they just make great spirit, no matter what the peating level is. And you take that great spirit, you put it in a great cask, you'll get great whiskey.
Yeah, I that event at that unnamed other event that we were at with unnamed other people. Yes, the Stitchell, from my memory, was an absolute standout.
Thank you, David Withers, for bringing it that day.
Thank you, David Von Withers, for bringing it. Yes, and it was one of those things where you go, that's an amazing spirit, regardless of unpeated or unpeated or peated category. Yeah, that's so enjoyable. Yeah.
Once again, and look, it's possibly a function of the fact that we're now up to whiskey number 6, but I just have no desire, no need to add water to this. I can't imagine it would remotely benefit from it. It is offering everything straight out of the glass at cask strength, which is still, in cask strength circles these days at 57.4%. It's pretty modest still, isn't it? I mean, when you consider how much cask strength stuff is coming out now north of 60, 57 suddenly seems tame.
Yeah. I think I need a bottle of this. I really like that. I really like it. In previous live streams, Andrew's often identified a bottle that he has to, where we've gone, there's only 13 of this available, and he's gone 12. Well, in this case, I'm going to do that now. I don't think we've actually formally released this. We have as of 7 p.m. tonight. It's gone up on the website. So I think I need to get one of these. I really enjoy that. I know we get a lot of 53s through, and it's almost easy to take them for granted. But I think I need to get one of this one. This is a fantastic 53. I'm really enjoying it.
You've touched on something there that's probably a topic for another conversation, but that is a classic comment, isn't it? There's so many of them, we take them for granted. We had this chat just not too long ago. It was not that long ago where our outturns were flooded with distillery, threes, Bamors. They were just everywhere. And to the point where members were starting to complain about, oh gosh, we have so many Bamors, and then they disappeared for a period. The industry changes. What you think is around will change in time. Don't always assume that distillery 53 will be something we see a lot of. The industry might change to a point where all of a sudden the owning company no longer provides casks to us. I think it would be a tragedy to dismiss any distillery on the basis of its availability or how much we see of it.
Yeah, thoroughly agree. Well, that wraps up our formalities for this evening. I hope you've had a good beer, snacks, and drams with us to celebrate our Christmas virtual, our November big virtual. I've got just a smidgen of my Hop Nation left, which I'm going to enjoy. And I really appreciate all of you tuning in. Of course, we're going to give away that Christmas cake for anyone who posts the photo for the best looking photo, I guess, on our socials. And Andrew, thank you so much for being a part of this, as always. And
Matt, is this our last virtual for the year? Are we doing one in December?
TBC.
TBC. Look, I'm going to just rattle off something completely off the cuff on the basis that we're not going to do another one. Matt, can I thank you on behalf of myself and all members for the amazing job you've done this year with our virtuals? Can I thank you for the effort you put into them, for providing members with amazing knowledge, entertainment, something to tune into on a night when there's crap on TV, which is every night of the week, to be honest. It is so good, and thank you for feeding our thirst as we sit at home and enjoy wonderful whiskies. It has been a pleasure tasting whiskies with you this year, and
as always,
I look forward to kicking into 2023 and doing the same again.
Here's to next year. Here's to December. Thank you, Andrew, and thank you so much to yourself for being a part of this, and thank you to all of our members who I just love joining in and tuning in from around the country with our virtuals, and we really appreciate it. Slanjavar, cheers, Kanpai, however you like to say it, and we'll see you all soon. And thanks again. Cheers. Catch you soon.
Good on you, folks. And if we don't talk to you again, have a fantastic Merry Christmas and a wonderful New Year.
Merry Christmas. And Merry Christmas there. All the commenters, everyone tuning in. All the casks we've tasted tonight are on the website, of course. Anyone who wants to grab a bottle. And thank you to everyone for all these amazing comments. I'll keep throwing it up on the screen. And Merry Christmas.